Okay. Gentlemen, shalom. Welcome to our shiur in halakha. The topic of our shiur today are halakha Moshe Sinai and Tefillin. In English, Mosaic law from Sinai in regards to Tefillin. Why are we learning this? It's a good question. But since we're learning Parshat Mishpatim, and we're getting into the fine details of the Torah, and it's teaching us that there are two Torot, written and oral, and here are a lot of the fine laws that we have no understanding of them by reading the Chumash. It reminds us also very good the essence of the laws of Tefillin. We're in the aftermath 3 weeks ago, the end of Parshat Bo, of reading 2 of the 4 Parshiot, 2 of the 4 sections of Tefillin. The other 2 we discussed this morning briefly in the shiur of the Siddur of Kriyat Shema. So we know that there are 4 places that Tefillin are mentioned in the Torah. The first 2 at the Exodus of Egypt, okay, Kadesh li kol bechor and Vayakev v'yacha both mention the mitzvah to tie Tefillin on your hand and put totafot between your eyes. Obviously, it's not clear, according to the Chumash, what has to be tied on the hand and what does it mean between the eyes and how we execute this and that and so on and so forth. I'm not telling you a novelty. This is how Chazal explained this. By the way, I have here a lovely book when I was learning halacha many years ago. There's a group called Tzur B'Merabanan, scholars of Talmidei Chachamim, and who's now the Rosh Yeshiva in Ramat Gan, Rabbi, how can I forget? Rav El-Ghazi. I think it's the Rosh Yeshiva in maybe Keren B'Yavne now. He put up halachic booklets that Chavrutat would be studying. So I have everything organized in front of me, because I certainly cannot rely on my memory, which often fails me and so on and so forth when you get to my age. Okay. Fans like you, I always like. Gentlemen, we know that the mitzvah of Tefillin is relating to these 4 sections. That's number 1. Each of the section has a common mitzvah, the mitzvah to tie the Tefillin, right? The section of sanctifying me, the Bechor, the section of coming into the land of Israel at the end of the Exodus in chapter 12, both have the mitzvah of tying the Tefillin. In the section of Shema and the second section, Vayim Shamoa, each of them also have the pasuk, Ukshartam liot al yadecha. In the singular, you shall tie a knot as a sign on your hand, with a totafot bein einecha, and these totafot between your eyes. The second paragraph of Shema is in the plural. Ukshartem otam. Do you hear the plural? Ukshartem otam. You shall tie them liot ayatchem on your hands. Vayu totafot, the plural bein einechem. Okay. We learn through the oral Torah that these parshiot, these 4, have to be written on what we call klaf. Klaf is animal hide. What do we call it? The parchment, the skin of the animal. Yes, it has to be a kosher animal. We'll see that in a moment. Thank you, sir.
Regarding the hide, in more back in the day, used to like goat and sheep.
You can also use that as well. We're going to learn. The Torah says in the first section, quote, Leman tiet Torat Hashem beficha. What is the last word? What does beficha mean? In your mouth. Whatever you could put in your mouth, meaning as far as the animals are concerned, that has to be, meaning a kosher animal, the hide, the leather, only that can be used as klaf, as parchment. We mean eating. That's right. It means eating it, right? Very nice. So 1, the mitzvah of writing the parshiot on klaf. Number 2, putting them into, I'm going to call in Hebrew, thank you for Shua, casings. Abayit. And plural? Batim. One more time? Batim. Okay? We have to place those parshiot in batim that are these type of boxes made out of, you just said leather, or, how do you spell or? Ayin, Vav Resh, because the light is spelled with an aleph of resh, right? Here we're talking about leather, okay? And the placing of the parchments into these boxes of leather, and then we're going to put it on our arm, on the top of the bicep, opposite my heart, to infuse the ideas of tefillin, the belief in oneness of God, the exodus of coming out of Egypt, into my heart and on my head, opposite my brain, and so on and so forth. And that. Now, the shur that we like to deal with here, which we don't have too much time, 27 and a half minutes, is the following. What I want to deal with are, what are those laws that have no, I repeat, have no reference in the Chumash whatever, at all. There are about 10 halachot that have to do with Mosaic law from Sinai. That's that category of oral Torah. That's not explaining a pasuk. That's not a hint, but it is total oral law with no reference in the Chumash, in the Torah. Strictly handed down orally, and therefore in Hebrew it's called halacha lemoshe misinai. Can you repeat that term? Okay.
The beauty of that,
okay,
unlike other mitzvahs, it's not argued upon.
That's right. There's nothing to argue. That's right. That's certain laws of oral Torah are under the compartment category called Mosaic laws from Sinai. Yes. Yes, that too. Kuf lamed face of it.
Or in English,
Gentlemen, number one. This is called the titura. Can you repeat that? Titora. This is the part of the leather that covers the opening of the bayit. If we remove this, we will have an opening of the bayit which inside we insert the cloth, the parchment. Through the opening here, we insert the parshiot. This has to be larger than the square. May I take this off? Thank you. My son also says this. This titura has to be, by definition, larger than the square bayit, that we have. It has to be wider than this ribua, and it looks more or less like a bridge. It looks like a gesher. That's number one, titura. To make a titura is halacha lemoshe misinai. Okay? Number two. Ma'abarta. Ma'abarta, from the word ma'avar, passageway. La'avor, to pass through. Aver hayarden, on the other side of the Jordan. Remember? La'avor. We must make a ma'abarta. What is a ma'abarta? It's a place that gives you the ability to thread through the straps of the tefillin of Yad and the tefillin of Rosh. So it's a passageway. It's a passageway in which the ritzuot, the straps, are through this part over here. This too, number two, ma'abarta. How do you spell it? Ma'abarta. Tough. Now it's an Aramaic word. How are ending words in Aramaic? Not with a hey, but with an aleph. So there'll be an aleph at the end. Ma'abarta. Tough aleph at the end. Okay. This is the place of putting the ritzuot in between. It's a passageway for the ritzuot. That's number two. Number three. The letter shin.
Why?
Okay. The letter shin. My dear friends, we're now dealing only with tefillin shel rosh. Tefillin shel rosh. We must have halacha lemoshe misinai, the form of the letter shin standing out from both sides. 1 second, sir. Shin is standing out here. It's not charut. It's not engraved inside. It has to be outside the box. Is that the word?
Convex.
Thank you. Outside the box of the tefillin on both sides. Okay? Now, on the right side, meaning on my head, the right side, the tefillin has 3 heads. Shlosha Rashim. Do you see the 3 heads? Yes? Whereas on the left side, it has 4 heads. Okay? 4 heads, 4 sides. I'll try to get back to it later on regarding the shin. Bidi avad. In fact, if it's done the wrong way, most poskim say that it doesn't prevent you from performing the mitzvah. I'm sure the sofer is not going to be happy that it was produced this way, but if it was done the other way, then it's not preventive. It's not preventive. The Hagaot Smag, Sefer Mitzvot Gedolot, explains that since the writing in the 2 tablets that God gave us was imprinted on the stone, as it states in the, we'll get to in Kitisa, Charut ala Luchot, okay? The shin on the Luchot, on the 2 tablets, okay, had 4 heads to it, 4 sides to it. Whereas in the Sefer Torah, if you're a scribe, a sofer, in the Sefer Torah, are the letters inscribed inside the parchment, or are they on the parchment? How does someone scribe? It's not engraved inside the parchment. In a Sefer Torah, the letters and the shin, of course, are on top of the parchment. And therefore, the shin will not be like the shin of the luchot of the 2 tablets. So therefore, thank you for showing that demonstration. Therefore, in tefillin, the shin that has 4 sides to it will be corresponding to the way God engraved the shin inside the luchot, inside the 2 tablets. Whereas the shin that has 3 on the right side of the shel rosh, that represents how we write a shin in a Sefer Torah. A shin in the Sefer Torah has these 3 and not the 4. Okay? So that's the 3rd halacha. We talked about the titura, the covering of the bayit. We talked about the ma'abarta, the passageway for the ritzuot, the straps. And now, the 3rd halacha from Mosaic law from Sinai, we discussed the shin of tefillin. Number 4. The parshiot have to be scribed by using what? What is the material? Quill. It's a special type of ink that we use. This too is Mosaic law from Sinai. That's number 4. Number 5, we can only scribe the parshiot on cloth, on parchment. What would you like to add, sir? Read it for us.
This book that Rav Weinberg gave to the library when he was teaching us about tefillin a few months ago. It has a lot of really interesting illustrations.
So please, very good. So what are you showing me?
Well,
I didn't bring my eyeglasses.
Okay, well this is the 5 pieces of parchment. The 2 for the rosh and 1 for the yad.
Okay, we're gonna get to that in 1 second. Hold your horse. I mean, hold your book. Hold your horse. Next. Halacha. The next Mosaic law from Sinai. The bayit. This is called the bayit. The bayit of the tefillin, both shel rosh and shel yad, must be that the length equals its width, what we call square. In Hebrew, ribu'ah. Why is it called the word ribu'ah? From what word? Ribu'ah from what word? Arba. 4-sided, equal in length. It has nothing to do, this halacha, with the height of the tefillin. Nothing to do with the height of the tefillin. Some of you may know the Chabad tefillin also very, very very tall and this and that. So here we're talking that the length with the width. Today, with modern day machinery and technology, the ability to manufacture tefillin so precise, not to the millimeter, but to the 10th of a millimeter even, and with the machinery that we have today, the production of tefillin is so, I'm going to use the word in Hebrew, mehudar, so special, so beautiful, beautifying the mitzvah, that it's even more precise. Thank you. That's no. My dear friends, that's the ribua, the square. The next halacha is that the titura, the first halacha we discovered, that the leather covering the opening of the box, it too has to be a ribua. Does it look like a ribua to you? Okay, why? Ribua square. Because now I'm going to show you why it is a ribua. This is not the titura. This is the titura. Now that is more square than looking at this. This we said is the passageway called the ma'abarta. The ma'abarta. But the square is where you have the thread, looks like the threading. That's the covering of the bayit. Inside the bayit are the parshiot. Okay? So we talked about the ribua, the square of the bayit of the tefillin. We talked about the titura, also has to be square. And now another halakha, what has to be square? The sewing. The sewing has to be square as well. What does that mean? That the holes that are drilled into the titura, and then the using of, what do we use to sew? Do you know?
We use tendons.
Tendons. Very good. Gidim. Can you pronounce that? Gidim. Where do we see the word gid in the Chumash in Bereshit? Gid hanasher. The tendon of Yaakov was uprooted when he was wrestling with the ministerial angel of Esav, right? Gid hanasher. So this is gid. This has to be square as well. The holes should be drilled in a way that one is parallel to the other. Parallel to the other. And that's going to make it square. Sometimes you see that the work is not too beautiful. I'm not going to say, and you can notice there are parshiot that even more beautiful, meaning there's bayit that's even more precise and more precise. You can see it's more or less the same over here. It's less than a millimeter off, without a doubt, we see here, if you want to see it here. But it should be as square as possible. Another halacha we discussed is the shin, that has to be 3 on one side, 4 on the other side. The ritzuot, the straps, and the color of the tefillin. What does it say in the Chumash? That the tefillin must be the color shachor. I like purple. Where is it? I like purple. Can I order purple colored? No. Party pooper. Ah, that's nice. I was thinking about it. Thank you. No, that's blue. In any event, halacha leMoshe miSinai, Mosaic law from Sinai, that the tefillin has to be shachor, painted black, shachor. Okay, do you see the hair of the hide coming out?
Yeah.
Oh my! Was there a mistake made and you forgot to tuck it in? It's like sometimes you walk with your shirt tucked out. No, not you, but the other guy next to you. So, this sa'arot, we're going to use the same sa'arot, first of all, to take the parshia, and we're going to tie it. Once we roll the parshiot, the sections, we roll the cloth together, there's a mitzvah to encircle it before we put it into the bayit by using these hairs. So we circle it, the sofer circles it. Also, Mosaic law from Sinai. Then this seyar, usually from a egel, from a how do you say the young calf? The young calf. We take the sa'ar of an egel, and it also comes out. We want to remind ourselves of the sin of the egel azahav, and we should make sure we prevent ourselves from sinning. And that's why we have this sa'ar, this hair coming out of the shell rosh. Okay. Next, we talked about the sewing of the titura by using the tendons that you mentioned before. That's how the bayit is sewn together with the gidim of a animal. It has to be a kosher animal, of course, even if the animal was a nivela. No, it doesn't make a difference. If as long as it came from first a kosher animal, because the Torah says leman, so that tiet Torah Hashem, so that the Torah of God beficha, meaning we can only use something that potentially a kosher animal. So even if the kosher, it has to be a kosher animal, but even if it's an avela or a treifa, we can still use the hairs from it to be sewing the tefillin with their tendons. But usually they take it from the heel of the animal. That's the minhag, not Mosaic law from Sinai, but the minhag. What did you ask?
Do they, if it's in the vela, you have to use the hide for the actual bite?
Yes. To my knowledge, yes. What did you want to say?
I just wanted to say an anecdote that I figured out is if you wanted to ask a Sofer Stam for a sample of his work, all you need to get from him to know that he's capable of writing all the letters of the Sefer Torah is the first scroll.
Kadesh.
All you need is that one scroll from the Rosh.
Because it has
all 27
beautiful, very nice, very nice.
Just double checking it.
Okay, so we talked now about the black straps, and so too the black batim. According to Rashi, by the way, on the Gemara, this halacha of black includes that the ritzuot should not turn to the other side by the place of the kesher. The place of the kesher is the most critical part of the black ritzuot. Here, as you see, the way it's tied, it's all done well, and it's not unraveled. And that's preventive. We often try to beautify the mitzvah, that we make sure the straps are okay and not to the other side, but it's not preventive. Here, if it's off of the side to the other side, then according to Rashi, it's preventive. It's preventive. Today, in the last few years, the manufacturing ritzuot that are two-sided, they're black two-sided. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I heard from some great scholars that there's really no halachic significance that it's two-sided. I also have now. I brought my tefillin to have it restrapped because there's what we call wear and tear. There's blai it's called wear and tear. Every so many years, I go to the sofer and I exchange. I asked him to put in new ritzuot, and the last one he did for me when I think we did a bar mitzvah for a son 4 years ago. He gave me two-sided black. But I was told by Menachem there's really no halachic significance. It's just that even if it does turn around, it's black on the other side as well.
But if it does turn around,
Right. So that's why the post-game told me. You're right. That's why they said. What did you want to say, Usher?
Yeah, sometimes when you use it for many years, it turns black.
What do you mean it turns what?
Because of all the dust in the air, and just
it's a little bit lighter, but since I've used it for many years, it has become darkish in color. So it's almost a weird black color.
The other side is also black. I understand you.
It's cool.
It's there. I don't know if they're only manufacturing it, but the more and more the manufacturers are manufacturing the two-sided black ones. Yes, Hirsch.
So my color is in the shoe, but regarding how many squares in the head.
Okay.
four.
Very good.
What's the last of that?
Okay, I'll try to get to that now.
And also the zucchini you put on the cloth inside
The 4 sections of Torah,
Here you go.
right? 2 sections we read.
Specific ones or could be.
They're the-
No. Listen to this, Harsh, I'll help you. The 2 sections at the end of the book of the Exodus of Egypt, chapter 13, and the Shema and the Vaya im Shema. Okay?
Let's say the big up. That whole paragraph, if you need to get a sample of work from a stam, all you need is that one, a stam, a sofa, a scrum.
Oh, so fair.
That has all 27 characters.
So these are the ones we
I want to now say the following. 4 sections, only these 4 sections. Today we're not going to have time, but there's a machlok in Rashi and Tosfot. What order should the sections be? Should it be in the order of the Torah, or should it be like Rabbeinu Tam, like you're singing there? Thank you.
That's Rashi.
That's right. Let's now talk about what we call or echad, one leather. Lechatchila, initially, based on the Shulchan Aruch, Rav Avad Yosef writes this as well. We should try to beautify and spend enough money to buy tefillin that's made from one skin. All 4 batim are made from one skin, and then we're fulfilling every opinion that there could be. However, if I took a skin from here and a skin from there, and I sliced it and then put them together, I connected them, that works. Is it as mihudar, as beautiful for the mitzvah? The answer is no. So even if you do make the batim from one parchment, we don't need the titura or the ma'abarta made from one skin. It doesn't have to be. Rather, this can be a skin in and of itself, different from this, and this can be a skin in and of itself, different from this. Okay? And that's really the practice of the manufacturers of the tefillin. That's what Rabbi Avad Yosef writes in a tshuva in his famous book called Yalkut Yosef in Siman 33. Now, let's talk about the less expensive tefillin that are made from several different leathers, and they are glued together. The sofer glues them together.
It's a waste of money because you end up having to replace it a lot quicker.
Very
It's
nice.
always problematic.
Right. What's going to happen, as Shua says correctly, the less we spend on our tefillin,
The more we have.
then, right,
Like,
that's it. It's like a lot of things in life. You buy cheap, you're gonna. You told me this is also. You buy cheap, it's gonna wear out after a certain amount of time. But let's say the following halacha. If you do buy tefillin that's not made from or echad, from one leather, and that the sofer glues the pieces together, and then what's the svara? What's the halachic logic? That when they're glued together, it is as if it is one or echad. Yes, it's kosher to fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin. However, whoever has the financial ability to go ahead and buy the more expensive ones, then the poskim Rabbi Ovadia says and others say we should invest the money. The more we invest the money in our mitzvot of God, the more we're getting closer to Hashem. It'll be better for you, better for your children as an example to them to put on tefillin. Of course, God will repay you back of all this investment. And that's what the Mishnah Berurah says itself, the Chafetz Chaim. He says, L'chatchila, it's best to have your tefillin produced from 4 tefillin produced from one or, and rather have it from other leathers and glued together. Okay? So this more or less covers, in short, very much in short, the halachic laws, Mosaic laws from Sinai. Perhaps another time we will continue. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Shalom, shalom. Thank you, Teshua.
Rob Weinberg had me read this book. It's in